r/AskReddit, what villain was terrifying because they were right? Not a true villain but Squidward. Squidward's a minimum wage worker in a monotonous day job with a boss who explicitly wants him to earn as little as possible and cuts costs everywhere, while having a musician's heart and playing his passion instrument to have some happiness and relaxing time for himself. He then proceeds to have his only time of peace and tranquility stolen from him by a loud, inconvenient neighbor who doesn't take care of his problems and makes fun of him for not being a pro at music. Most SpongeBob episodes I watch nowadays have me rooting for Squidward to just murder those two morons before they induce a depression breakdown on our Squid boy. Otto from WALL-E. It was one of the only almost perfectly executed villains. He never really talks unless needed because he wasn't programmed to, no malicious motives, does everything efficiently. He's only bad because he's following his programming, protect the humans and don't let them back to Earth. Not out of malicious intent, but it was what he was programmed to do. And his directive isn't even incorrect. WALL-E finding that plant was like finding a 4-leaf clover in a field of grain. The planet was nowhere near habitable, and they barely know how to stand when they get back. In reality, nobody on that axiom is going to make it very far. Edit. Some of you missed the main point of the original post and started arguments on how humans could survive. Remember, me thinking they wouldn't make it far alone is only any theory, and I'm not saying it's 100% truth, but I'm kinda tired and I keep getting people saying the same thing, so I thought I would just say that so I could go to sleep and hopefully have a couple less people ticked off when I wake up than I would had I not said that. Edit 2. Well, I woke up and this comment blew up a bit. Just want to say that contrary to popular belief, I did watch the end credits. It's a Pixar movie. Did you expect them to actually show civilization fail and die? I just had a theory on what would happen if they went with a more grim approach. They could still live, but they also had a chance they wouldn't. Without the couple minutes end credits thrown in at the last second, it's really just an open-ended question I added one of many answers to. None of you said the most terrifying one. Mojo from the Powerpuff Girls. He wanted to bring free energy and advanced technology to the people. And in one episode he actually did. He made the world an amazing place. And then the Powerpuff Girls ruined it all. Screenslaver from The Incredibles 2. The monologue given during that movie regularly rings in my head. I'm sure the creepy bass robotic voice doesn't help too. The screenslaver interrupts this program for an important announcement. Don't bother watching the rest. Elastigirl doesn't save the day, she only postpones her defeat. And while she postpones her defeat, you eat chips and watch her invert problems that you are too lazy to deal with. Superheroes are part of a brainless desire to replace true experience with simulation. You don't talk, you watch talk shows. You don't play games, you watch game shows. Travel, relationships, risk, every meaningful experience must be packaged and delivered to you to watch at a distance so that you can remain ever sheltered, ever passive, ever ravenous consumers who can't free themselves to rise from their couches to break a sweat, never anticipate new life. You want superheroes to protect you, and make yourselves ever more powerless in the process. Well, you tell yourselves you're being looked after. That you're inches from being served and your rights are being upheld. So that the system can keep stealing from you, smiling at you all the while. Go ahead, send your supers to stop me. Grab your snacks, watch your screens, and see what happens. You are no longer in control. I am. Oh well, Heath Ledger's Joker in the Dark Knight trilogy. He was so crazy, broken, hurt, shattered and twisted beyond repair that he made sense. Every line of Joker in that movie is so chaotic, nihilistic, feels so hopeless, yet so logical. It amazed me how Batman just stick to his guns, to his morality and duty, despite the Joker trying so hard to bring the worst of him out. And he almost make it. Batman has his moments of doubts in the movie, moments when he wants to make something really bad. Then I remembered there is a quote of Nietzsche that goes like this. He who fights with monsters might take care lest he thereby become a monster. When you gaze for long into an abyss, the abyss gazes also into you. This is the internal process Batman goes during the entire movie, as he tries to fight the Joker while trying to not lose his sanity in the process and give himself over completely to insanity. But madness is contagious. In the end, the efforts of the Joker are useless when trying to turn Batman to the dark side, but he succeeds in turning Harvey Dent, Batman's friend, into a monster, Two-Faces, who ends up being the embodiment, some kind of final metamorphosis, of the fight between good and evil that the movie wants to portray. In a sense, this duality, this metaphysical and spiritual struggle between the forces of good and evil, chaos and order, is the most ancient of all struggles, and still valid to our days. In the end, the movie teaches an incredibly valuable lesson to us. There is no reason to be good and bad, and often most people have the power to be both. The people who are good in this crazy world, the ones who chose to be good every day, are the real heroes. Because there is no reason to be good, there is no reward for being good, and actually you are putting yourself in a very unfavorable position, risking losing everything and being taken advantage of from people who don't have morals. Yet, these good people are good, just for the sake of it. So yeah, Batman gave me hope. But damn, Joker was right. He convinced a good man that being good or bad doesn't really care, that it's just a matter of perspective. I don't make plans. I just make things. Scary. Dr. Doom. As a Romani, he's known bigotry all his life. His mother sold her soul to the interdimensional devil in order to protect their home country from invaders. He dedicated himself to being the greatest scientist the human race has ever known, so he could find a way to beat the devil and save his mother's soul. When the dimensional gateway he has spent years working on blows up in his face, his supposed best friend can only smugly offer an "I told you so." So when science couldn't achieve his dream, he then dedicated himself to becoming the world's greatest sorcerer. And by his own willpower, he did it. Now with his new abilities, he freed Latveria from the Cold War dictatorship it had been under, and turned an impoverished third world country into one of the most peaceful and prosperous in the world. When he viewed possible future timelines, he saw over and over again how humanity destroys itself. So the only way to save people from themselves is by his rule. Thanos throughout Infinity War. His motives were different from the comics, but it added a human element to it that made him relatable to the viewer. Overpopulation is a threat to a species' survival, one that humans are currently dealing with. There are people that still don't have clean water, good shelter, or know where their next meal is coming from. The planet will only take so much before it fails or rapidly changes by becoming more violent and destructive to our survival. Thanos lived and experienced his civilization suffering with resource problems, took a morally difficult stance, sacrificed half the population so the other half could thrive, and got exiled for it even though he was right. It's a basic supply and demand struggle. People will die anyway if there's not enough to go around. The decision to kill that many people is completely immoral, but he also wasn't discriminating between who, it was random. One decision supports mass genocide through action, the alternative is mass extinction through inaction or consequence. When the result is the same, which is honestly better. The Reapers from Mass Effect, in the original BioWare ending before EA changed it. All they were trying to do was stop advanced races from using so much dark matter that they wiped out all life in the galaxy before other races were allowed to come along. If it wasn't for them, humanity wouldn't just not exist, but every species in the entire cycle, every species in every cycle, everyone would have died as the stars went out. This horrific fast heat death event, over the course of a few thousand years. Except a small group of Leviathans, in the early days of the universe, realized what was going to happen, and sacrificed their entire civilization to save all future life in the galaxy. And when Shepard destroys their ships in the third one, every one of those ships is a museum, a living record of every previous civilization, and they're destroying the only thing that was able to be left from them. To fight the Reapers is to fight against everyone who has ever lived and everyone who ever will live. The Reapers don't just have a point, they've saved more lives than we can even fathom. Their only flaw is that they were never able to find a solution that was better than wiping out civilization every few thousand years and preserving whatever they could find. Dr. Zaius from Planet of the Apes. The entire original series does a really good job in my opinion making the villains right but also the harbingers of their own downfall. But Dr. Zaius is my personal favorite. Dr. Zaius in Beneath the Planet of the Apes has this line which sums up his ideology to a T, paraphrasing as "It's been a hot minute. Help you? Why should I help you? Man is evil. Capable of nothing but destruction." And the best part is while yes by refusing to help George he leads to the world being destroyed, he wasn't ever wrong. The end of the first movie has George learned that mankind caused a nuclear apocalypse whilst he was out in space, leaving the other apes to evolve in more or less a wasteland. And the second movie ends with George activating nukes underground in a last-ditch Hail Mary and blowing Earth up. While yes, it could have been avoided if Zaius just helped George, why should he have? Everything from both the apes' religious beliefs and their knowledge of history shows mankind to be an evil, destructive species, and while yes we're also doing good, let's be honest it's always been our destructive efforts that have led more lasting impacts on the world. And the last thing Dr. Zaius experienced was just confirmation of his belief as a human destroyed not only himself, not only Dr. Zaius, but literally the entire planet. Mr. Wilson from Dennis the Menace. The live-action movie has one of those random scenes you see as a kid that sticks with you your whole life. Mr. Wilson has been cultivating this flower that takes like 40 years to bloom and then dies in 10 seconds. At the moment it's going to bloom, Dennis causes a ruckus and Mr. Wilson misses the blooming he's been working his whole adult life for. Looking back, that's like one of the most disturbing moments I've seen on film, partly because it gets more relatable as I get older. I mean, damn, 40 years. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. See you all on the next video.